The first time her fingers brushed through my hair, my lungs forgot their job. I didn't stop breathing because of romance, at least not then, but because that simple touch carried something unfamiliar and heavy, warmth, the kind that doesn't stay on the surface. It slips inside, finds the parts of you you've locked away for years, and murmurs, "You're still alive. You're still here." Before I go any further, if this story stirs something inside you even just a little, please pause for a second to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Every bit of support helps us tell more stories that heal wounds, spark hope, and remind us that love hasn't disappeared from this world. It was a rainy morning in November, the quiet kind of rain. Not loud, not dramatic, just a steady drizzle that felt like the sky was grieving with me. I sat inside an old corner cafe, holding a book I'd already read 5 times. I wasn't reading a single word. I was hiding from the silence that had followed me everywhere since my wife, Lena, died a year ago. Grief is strange that way. It doesn't always shout or collapse you to the floor. Sometimes it simply sits next to you, calm and patient, waiting for the moment you finally fall apart. That was when she walked in. Alina, she closed her umbrella and shook it gently, tiny droplets catching the light like shattered glass, then smiled at the barista as if they shared a history. That smile wasn't bold it was soft, a little worn, the kind of smile that belongs to someone who's been through storms and chose kindness anyway. She sat 2 tables away, ordered a black coffee, and pulled out a sketchbook. Her hands moved quickly, confidently, like they already knew where they were going, drawing something only she could see. I tried not to stare, told myself to look back at my book, but then she glanced up and caught me. Instead of looking away, she smiled. "Do you always stare at strangers like that?" she asked, her voice calm, playful. "Only the ones who draw in cafes," I said, flashing an awkward smile I barely recognized as my own. We started with small talk, rain, the weather, art, how the coffee here tasted stronger than it should. Somehow, without either of us pushing, the conversation drifted into heavier places. She told me she used to be a painter, really a painter, the kind who lost track of time with color on her hands. But she hadn't touched paint since her fiancé Noah died in a car accident 2 years ago. "I tried painting him once after that," she said, staring into her cup. "But every color felt wrong, like the world forgot how to be warm." Something inside me cracked, not loudly, quietly. 2 broken people pretending we were fine, recognizing the fractures in each other. Days slipped into weeks. We kept meeting there. Same cafe, same time, same table. I brought my notebook. She brought her sketchbook. We never planned it. It just happened. Slowly, the silence between us stopped feeling so heavy. One morning, the cafe was unusually quiet when she said, "You never talk about her." I froze. She hadn't meant to hurt me. Her voice was gentle, like brushing dust from an old photograph. "She loved sunflowers," I said after a moment. "Said they always looked like they were listening to the light." Alina smiled softly. "Sounds like her heart still shines somewhere in you." I didn't answer, but when she reached across the table and rested her hand on mine, something shifted. A warmth I'd buried under guilt, fear, and loneliness stirred awake. Months passed, and the cafe became our second home. We laughed, sometimes cried, but mostly just existed together. And for the first time since Lena died, breathing again didn't hurt so much. Much then came that afternoon, the one that quietly split my life in two. We were sitting in the park, autumn leaves spinning around us like soft, silent confetti. I stayed on the bench while she stood behind me, laughing as she tried to tame my hair after the wind had clearly won. Her fingers slid through it gently, playfully, and suddenly my breathing went wrong. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't even the touch itself. It was what the touch meant. For an entire year, every touch had belonged to a ghost. Every heartbeat echoed with memories I refused to loosen my grip on. But in that moment, with her fingers brushing lightly against me, something terrifying and beautiful became clear. My heart was beating for someone new. "Alina," I whispered, not even knowing what words I planned to follow with. She froze, feeling the shift before I could explain it. She stepped around and knelt in front of me, her eyes locking onto mine. Steady and kind. "You don't have to say it," she murmured. "I know." Tears burned behind my eyes. "It feels like I'm betraying her." "No," she said softly. "You're keeping her alive by allowing yourself to live again." Her words hit me like sunlight after too many frozen mornings. I wanted to believe them, desperately, but grief doesn't disappear. It changes shape, and that change hurts in its own way. In the weeks that followed, I pulled back. I told her I needed space. She didn't argue or cling. She only smiled sadly and said, "I'll be here when you're ready." That's the thing about real love, it doesn't chase. It waits. During those weeks alone, I revisited the places Lena and I once loved. The pier, the bookstore, the small garden near the hospital. But this time, I didn't cry. I stood there, breathing, remembering, and listening to my heart beat without breaking, talked to her instead. I spoke out loud, telling her about Elenia, about the way she smiles like early morning light and how she's been helping me remember what it feels like to be alive again. I told her I wasn't replacing her, only learning how to carry her with me. And maybe Lena heard me, because that night I dreamed of her standing in a wide field of sunflowers, golden heads turned toward the sky. She smiled at me, peaceful, whole, and whispered, "It's okay." When I woke up, my chest felt lighter, and for the first time, the answer was clear. I went back to the cafe. She was there, just like always, bent over her sketchbook, lost in lines only she understood. When she noticed me, she froze for a moment, then smiled softly. "Hey, stranger," she said. "I don't want to be a stranger anymore," I replied. I told her everything, how afraid I'd been, how guilt had wrapped around my heart, and how her quiet kindness had taught me how to breathe again. She didn't interrupt. She didn't rush me. She simply stood, walked toward me, and before I could finish my sentence, she gently placed her hands in my hair. Just like that day in the park. "Then breathe," she whispered. "Just breathe." So I did. And for the first time in years, breathing didn't hurt. Weeks turned into months. Months slipped into changing seasons. We began painting together. She taught me how to see color again, and I taught her how to trust words. Slowly, carefully, we built something soft and honest, not to replace the ones we lost, but to honor them by choosing to keep loving. And maybe that's the secret life never tells you. Love doesn't end when someone leaves. It simply changes shape, waiting for the right hands to remind you how to live again. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Every interaction helps us share more stories of healing, hope, and humanity with the world.